اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. Page 36. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم. الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق، ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراط الله المستقيم، وعلى آله وأزواجه وذرياته حق قدر ومقدار العظيم. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا. اللهم إنا نسألك فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين المقربين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم يا أرحم الراحمين. Oh Allah, grant us your mercy when we are holding this blessed majlis for your sake. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us beneficial knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expand our heart to stand up for justice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on those who have passed away before us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala aid and assist those people who stand up for justice. Last week, with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we went over the adab of wudu, right? What are some of the etiquettes of making wudu? And we mentioned that Imam al-Ghazali mentions uh, the fara'id of the wudu and the sunan of the wudu, and accompanies it with specific du'as, that each limb, when you are washing each limb, he has corresponding dua to those limbs, right? And we went through over that. And just to recap, and Imam al-Ghazali again will refresh our memory today, is what are the fara'id of the wudu according to the school of Imam al-Shafi'i, Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, whom Imam al-Ghazali is following. Imam al-Ghazali is a follower of the Shafi'i school, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And what are some of the fara'id of the wudu? The fara'id of the wudu according to the school of Imam al-Shafi'i are 6. The first thing is the niyyah. The second is washing of the face, right? And when we define what is the face, from the tip of the hair, bottom of the cheek, one earlobe to another earlobe, okay? And then uh, washing of the hands, including the elbow, right? The hand starts from the top of the fingernail up to and including the elbow. And then wiping the hair. And we say the minimum is actually 1 hair. You can go like this in the Shafi school, right? But the sunnah is, again, we mentioned, to touch both of the tips of your hand, to go this way and come back that way. And then that's the fifth. And the fifth is washing the legs, including the ankles. And then lastly is the tartib, the order in which we just mentioned. But there's something that I would like to, just mention to clarify and complete that segment of Imam al-Ghazali, because this segment is kind of a fiqh segment. It's a jurisprudential segment that Imam al-Ghazali is talking about. And Imam al-Ghazali in this book did not talk about what are some of the things that will make your wudu to be invalid. What are the nawaqid al-wudu? What are some of the things that invalidate, right, your wudu, ablution? One thing is ما خرج من السبيلين, anything that comes out of the two private parts, anything that comes and exit from the private parts, the front and the back. And the other thing is when you're sleeping and your buttock is not firm, right? It's not firmly seated. Mathalan, I seated firm straight and I fall asleep and my buttocks are firm, then according to the school of Imam al-Shafi'i, then your wudu is still valid. Okay? And the third thing is if you lose your conscience, if you lose your conscience as a result of maybe intoxication or as a result of sickness or as a result of, you going cuckoo even, right? So that will make your wudu invalid or your ablution invalid. And the fourth thing is direct skin contact between a male and a female who is unrelated. Direct skin contact between a male and a female who is unrelated will break your wudu. And the fifth, if you touch your genital parts using your palm, and this is your palm right here, right? This is your palm. If you touch your genital parts, the front and the back, meaning not the cheeks of the back, but the real, right, the hole, then with the palm of your hands, then your wudu is invalid. What if I touch my private parts with the outer side, mathalan, like this, then my wudu is still valid, right? So that is the invalidators of wudu. And today, Imam al-Ghazali radiallahu ta'ala anhu is going to go over adabul ghusli min al-janaba. What are some of the etiquettes, right, of you engaging in ghusl to remove major impurities? We have two types of impurities. We have hadatul asghar wa hadatul akbar. We have minor impurities, right, like which is removed by engaging in wudu. We have hadatul asghar. For example, I go to the restroom and use the restroom. Then if I make wudu, then I have removed that hadath. Me passing gas, that is a minor hadath. Then when I engage in wudu, then that hadath is removed. Okay? So, and then we have hadathul akbar, which needs, right, ghusl, which needs even a higher form of ritual purification, which we call ritual bath, which we call ghusl. So Imam al-Ghazali says, if you have entered a state of ritual impurity by having a wet dream and sexual intercourse, okay? Now Imam al-Ghazali is just mentioning two. What is that thing that renders you, to be in a state of major ritual impurity, right? There is 5 things, right? There's 5 things that if you are in it, right, or if that occurred to you, then you are in a state of major impurity. Thus, in order to come out of that major impurity, you require to engage in ghusl, right? Ritual bath, right? Which I will use ritual bath in English, but for the easiness of myself, I'll use ghusl, inshallah. So, what are some of the things? Imam al-Ghazali mentioned 2 things. Once you have wet dream for the boys, right, or sexual intercourse, after the sexual intercourse, then you are in the state of ritual impurity, major ritual impurity, added to akbar, or you're in the state of janaba. Okay, but there is other things that renders you to be in this state of janaba. Okay, and you require ghusl. One of the things is, if you, as Imam al-Ghazali mentioned, is this sexual intercourse. The other thing is the ejaculation of the sexual fluid, be it male, be it female, right? Once the ejaculation occurs, then you are in the state of janaba. Thus, you require ghusl to come out of that state. But there is three things which is specific to the women. Okay, there's three things which is specific to the women. One of it is the menstruation, right? The menstruation, the period. And according to the school of Imam al-Shafi'i, again, I always refer to the school of Imam al-Shafi'i because Imam al-Ghazali is a follower of that school, right? So the minimum uh, state of menstruation is 24 hours, one day, 24 hours. And the maximum is 15 days. Anything other than that, we call istihada. Okay, anything after that, maybe 15 days plus 1 hour, we call that plus 1 hour istihada. Okay, and it has its own specific rulings, which inshallah we wouldn't discuss in this setting, but we'll discuss in the inshallah some other times when we go over the fiqh of the Sada Shafi'i, inshallah. And the second thing is the postnatal bleeding, what we call nifas. Right? The other one was hayd, now what we call nifas. Nifas can be, the minimum is that instant that she gives birth, the instant, and the maximum according to the school of Imam al-Shafi'i is 40 days. Okay, 40 days. Okay, and anything after that again is istihada, which has its specific ruling. We'll talk about it some other times. And the third thing that is specific to the women is giving birth. Okay, giving birth. So these five things, two specific to both men and women, and three only specific to women, will render you to be in the major impurity, in the state of janaba. Thus, for you to come out of the state of janaba, you require to do ghusl. Okay? So Imam al-Ghazali will lead us through how to do ghusl then. How do we do ghusl? He said, carry the basin of water to the bathroom. Okay, that of course doesn't apply to us people in the West, but if you are back home, this definitely applies to you. And uh, major part of my life, like a lot of the major part of my life before I came to the West, we used to engage in taking showers through the basin, right, where you take water and you engage in the bath. So it says before washing anything, wash your hands 3 times, just similarly like wudu. Okay, because that's, you're going to use your hand to pour water on yourself, so you need to make sure that your hands are clean. Okay, then remove any impurities from your body. Mathalan, you are in a marital relationship, then maybe you have a spotting of blood, or you have a spotting of the sexual organ, of the sexual fluid, sorry, right, of the sexual fluid. So at that specific moment, if that sexual fluid is on your clothes or on your body, right, you have to remove it first of all. Okay, once I've removed it, then you perform the regular ablution for the prayer. As we mentioned before, we perform wudu. This is the sunnah again. Okay, we perform wudu, and we mentioned what are the faraid of the wudu and what are the sunnah of the wudu. Okay, and then after we have done that, again, Imam al-Ghazali, when he brought the wudu in, he brought some du'as which are corresponding to each limb that we are washing. Okay, in each limb that we're washing, we engage in the dua. So Imam al-Ghazali saying, but when you're making wudu, you have to make sure one thing. You have to postpone washing your feet, right? So as you don't waste your, he says, so as not to waste water. Because when you are taking ghusl, of course, the water, you need to wash your feet. So instead of washing it twice, again, learning the context of Imam al-Ghazali, meaning that the water is very scarce. And even back home for us, water is very scarce. It's really a blessing for somebody to get water to drink, clean water to drink, let alone to take shower. Right? People will go days and if not weeks without engaging in this act of worship. Right? And ghusl is an act of worship. And we should be very thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have accessibility easy accessibility to water. And this is a ni'mah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And after he says, after that, you pour water over your right side of the body 3 times. The right side. Okay? The right side, you pour water 3 times. Again, for us in the West, when we have shower, it's difficult. So, personally, for me to ascribe to that sunnah, what I do, I first go on my right side and try to wet my right side. Okay, for example, and this is the shower. Then you try just to wet your right side and maybe rub your right side and try to wash it, so that inshallah we can get the reward of the sunnah, complying with the way of Al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Okay, and then making the intention of lifting the state of impurity, making the niyyah to lift the hadatul akbar. Okay, niyyah. And that is the first wujub, the first obligatory act in ghusl according to the Shafi'i school. Okay, so you making the intention of lifting the major state of impurity, the janaba. As in the wudu, we mentioned that we make the niyyah of lifting hadatul asghar, the minor ritual impurity. Okay, in this instance, we engaging in ghusl, and we make the niyyah so that we can lift the state of the janaba. Then after that, pour the water over your left side of the body 3 times. Again, left side 3 times. Then pour it over your head 3 times. So we first engage in the right side. Mathalan, if you open the shower, you try to put your head away from the shower a little bit so that it can wet your right side, inshallah, with the niyyah of complying with the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then afterwards, you turn yourself on the left side, you wet it. And then after that, you wet your head 3 times. And then he says, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, wrap the front and the back of your body. You wrap the front and the back, so that you can remove the dirt and whatever which is unclean. Use your finger to make the water penetrate the hair of your head. You use your finger so that you go deep, especially if you have a lot of hair. So you make sure that the water has touched the scalp of your head. Alhamdulillah, for someone like me, it's easy. I have short hair, but for our brothers who have long hair and our sisters, then you have to make sure that you do a little bit of rubbing so that the water can penetrate until your head. Make sure the water gets into the fall of your body, as well as the roots of your hair, both thin and thick. So you make sure, for example, mathalan, you make sure under your armpit, under your thighs. Sometimes if you have a belly, sometimes if you have a rollover, so you have to make sure that you lift it up and clean the path, and make sure that every inch and part of your body is wet bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay, after that, he says radiallahu ta'ala anhu, avoid touching your male or female genital part after the ablution, right? If it says if your hand comes in contact with the private part, again we mention, meaning that if your hand, meaning that the inner part of your palm, when it comes in contact, right, with your genital parts, then you have to repeat the wudu afterwards. But if I made the wudu, I made a ghusl, and I did not touch my private part with the palm of my hands, then at that moment I have wudu. I don't have to engage in wudu again, because I have wudu. Okay, because I have wudu. But in case you accidentally, and sometimes it happens, you accidentally touched it, then you have to repeat your wudu. right? And then he summarizes things for us. He says, in all of these, the things that are obligatory, the things that are obligatory, two specific to making ghusl, he says is one, the niyyah, the intention, two, removing the janaba, removing the impurity, okay? And three, encompassing your whole body while washing, meaning that the water touches every part and inch of your body. Those are the obligatory parts of ghusl. The niyyah, right? Removing the impurity, okay? The niyyah is for removing you from the state of janaba, removing the specific impurity. And we say if you have maybe a sexual fluid on you, or if you have a big amount of blood or whatever it is, then you have to remove that first, and then you engage in wudu and then ghusl. And then thirdly, that you make sure the water touches each and every part of your body. Okay? And he goes, the Imam is going to, again, just to refresh our memory, he's telling us the obligatory part of ablution of wudu are washing the face, washing the arms, including the elbows, wiping part of your head, right? And washing the feet, including the ankles. And each of these are to be done, carried out one time with intention. Again, with intention. The intention of wudu is to remove you from a minor impurity. The intention of ghusl is to remove you from janaba or major ritual impurity. And lastly, the tartib, the order in which that he mentions. And right, the Imam says the rest of the actions in ablution and in wudu, in wudu and in ghusl are confirmed the sunnah. Everything other than what we mentioned as the fara'id are the sunnah. And he says their benefits are many and their rewards are great. The benefit of engaging the sunnah is a lot, is many, and the reward in it is even greater. But he says, whomsoever dismisses them, yani that he or she does not engage in the sunnah just because they say, it's sunnah, then he or she loses out, right? In fact, he puts his act of the obligatory act into risk, because we know that we are weak human beings, and sometimes we fall short even in the obligatory parts that we do. Whereas the sunnah, the sunnah that we engaged in comes and fills up and makes up for us in our shortcoming in the obligatory. So it's encouraging. I encourage myself first of all, and I encourage you all to engage in the sunnah as little as it is, because in that there is a secret, right? And that we have, as we've discussed before, then if you want to attain the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is one of the methodology, right? That's one of the ways that you earn the pleasure and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then I would like to mention, the Imam doesn't mention before we jump onto the Adabut Tayammum. Alright, we have mentioned the obligatory parts, we have mentioned some of the sunan of ghusl, like saying Bismillah Rahman Rahim, making wudu before that, rubbing your hand over the body, performing the act as we mentioned, yani tartib, and washing the right side first and then the left side later on. So that are some of the sunan. What are some of the things that we cannot engage in when we are in the state of janaba or even minor impurity? Okay, what are some of the things that it's unlawful for us to engage in? One is prayer. We cannot pray when we are in the state of janaba, or we are in the state of hadathul asghar, the minor ritual impurity. then we cannot pray unless we lift the janaba or we lift the hadatul asghar. Secondly, you cannot deliver the khutbah when you don't have if you're in the state of janaba or you're in the state of uh, minor ritual impurity, you cannot deliver the khutbah. Again, the third thing is you cannot circumambulate the Kaaba. You cannot make yani tawaf. All right. The fourth thing, you cannot touch the Mus'haf, the Quran. Again, we define the Quran as that which is from the Surah Al-Fatiha until Nas is purely the Quran. Purely. There is no translation in it. So if, mathalan, there is a Quran, some of which has translation, then that is not the Quran. You can touch that and you can. The phone is not the Quran. The Quran, when you talk about, is the Mus'haf. And the definition of the Mus'haf that we say. And the seventh thing is specific to janaba. Then you cannot remain in the mosque during the time of itikaf. Okay? When you're in itikaf, you have to leave the mosque so that you can lift yourself from the janaba because of maybe you had a wet dream when you're in itikaf. And when are you recommended to engage in ghusl? One, it's sunnah in 17 occasions according to the school of Imam Shafi. One is when you're going to pray the Jum'ah prayer, Friday prayer. Two, the two Eidain, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. Three is when you want to engage in the prayer of the drought, right? When you want to Salatul Istisqa, the prayer of the drought. And then the fifth is the lunar, when you want to pray the lunar eclipse, or right? When you want to play the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, the khusuf and the kusuf. Khusuf and the kusuf. The two salah, if you want to engage in it, then it's sunnah that you take a ghusl. Okay? The seventh thing is when you wash the deceased. When you wash a dead, then it's sunnah for you to take wudu afterwards. When you're entering the state of Islam, it's sunnah to engage in wudu. When you lose your sanity and you come back, and you go a little bit cuckoo, real cuckoo again, you go out, and when you come back, it's sunnah for you to engage in ghusl. Okay? When you're entering the state of ihram, when you're entering the state of ihram, before that, it's good that you engage in ghusl. When you're entering Makkah, it's sunnah to have. When you're standing on Arafah, it's sunnah. When you're standing on Arafah, if you can. When staying the night at Muzdalifah, and when you throw in the Jamarat, the tree, right? When you're making tawaf on the Kaaba, and when you're running from Safa and Marwa, those 17 things is what we term to be sunnah to engage in, inshallah, before you engage in those acts. And then the last thing that we're going to go over today is the adabul tayammum. What are some of the etiquettes of tayammum, dry ablution? Right? What is the adab of tayammum? Because as we all know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about wudu. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم. Okay? وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم or أرجلكم إلى الكعبين. Right? But what if you are sick? وإن كنتم مريضا أو على سفر أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط أو لامستم النساء. Okay. And these are some of when you are in that state, you are sick, maybe you cannot take wudu from water, Okay, and you're traveling, you have no water, what happens, right? Then فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً فَتَيَمَّمْ صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, if you don't have access to water, or you physically, in terms of health wise, you cannot engage in wudu, then you can engage in tayammum, right? You can engage famsahu biwujuhikum wa aydiyakum min. So you rub and or you wipe your face and your hands, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Uh, and so let's go over. And there's some hadith, some famous hadith of Ammar bin Yasir, famous hadith in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, where Ammar bin Yasir, the Prophet ﷺ sends him on an errands, and then he radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the janaba falls him. Then he starts rubbing himself, or what is the right word? He starts like rolling himself in the dust, like how the donkeys. I don't know if the people in the east back home will relate to me. So when the donkeys or the animals, when they want to take ghusl, right? So they wrap themselves in the dirt. So that's how they take ghusl. MashaAllah. Right? So the same thing, Ammar bin Yasir did that. And in the hadith, he mentions that, right? So, and then when he went back to the Prophet ﷺ, he told him about the incident. The Prophet ﷺ, he told him, it would have been sufficient for you if you just, struck the earth like this, and he showed him the way of making tayammum, right? So that's some of the adillah. So the Imam radiallahu ta'ala anhu say, if you are unable to find water, again, if you're unable to find water, after looking for it, you have to look for it. These are some of the shurut, right? If you are unable to look for water, or some obstacles prevent you from reaching it, like what? Like imprisonment, or where there is a pool of water, there is some dangerous animal, right? Close to that, or the water you have is enough only for you and your friend to drink and your companion to drink, right? That is only sufficient for you. Or the water available is a property of someone else, but that someone else wants to sell to you with a much more higher price than the market price. For example, let's say water in the market price is $2, then the guy wants to sell to you with $20, right? Then, or you have illness, or you have wound on the part that you have to make wudu, okay? Or you have wound on the part that you have to make wudu, and that could threaten your life, right? Is threatening to your life. Then he says you must wait until the time of the prayer is coming. Then you must wait, right, until the time of the prayer has come in. You must wait until the time of the prayer has come in. Then you find a clean earth on which there is soft and pure dust. And he says, you strike your palms on it, right? Strike your palms on it, keeping your fingers together. Strike your palms on it, keeping your fingers together like this. So let's say, for example, the surface here is the dirt. So I struck the dirt, right? And then he says, with the intention, okay, the first obligatory thing in tayammum is what? The niyyah. But the niyyah of this is istibahat as-salah. Istibahat as-salah. It just making the prayer lawful for you at that moment. Istibahat as-salah, making the prayer lawful for you. Again, we have talked about wudu and ghusl and tayammum now, and they all have niyyah. Okay? And if there was an exam, of which there is no, I would have asked, what is the difference between the niyyah of wudu and the niyyah of ghusl? And what is the difference between the niyyah of wudu and the niyyah of tayammum? Okay? The niyyah of wudu is to remove hadathul asghar. The niyyah of ghusl is to remove hadathul akbar or janaba, and the niyyah of ghusl is istibahat as-salah. Okay. So I do that. I make the niyyah. After making the niyyah, you wipe your entire face. Wipe it. I wipe my entire face. Right? My entire face. I wipe my entire face. And then I strike the earth again. Okay. Okay. And then your hands left, right, and then left. You engage in it, you just rub it like that. And then the same left like that. So that is it. And you have tayammum, and mashallah, you can go pray, you can go read Quran, you can go make tawaf if you want. That specific moment. If then because of the health reason you couldn't do wudu, then you can engage in anything that wudu can give you. Right? And he says, make sure that you know the dust a little bit reaches your facial hair. So just doing over it like that is sufficient. Then take off your ring and strike the earth second time with the finger spread out. So like you have a ring, so he said you should you should remove your ring. Right? It's encouraged for you to remove your ring. And it says wipe your arm, including the elbows, with your hands. Again, we mentioned including the elbow. Okay. And it says if you do not go over the whole area the first time, then maybe your hands are little. You do not go. You couldn't be able to go over. Then it says strike the earth one more time and wipe the arms until you have gone over the entire area. And then next wipe each of the palms with the other, right? And then wipe the space between your fingers, right? So, right? Because just like wudu, once you did that, once you did that, make sure that between your finger. Okay, then. What now? Perform one obligatory prayer with this tayammum. Okay, there's a ruling behind tayammum, along with any voluntary prayers which you wish after it. If you want to perform another obligatory prayer, you must make new tayammum. Okay. Just to summarize it all, what are some of the conditions? Again, we're switching to fiqh. Imam al-Ghazali has given us the framework. Now we're switching to fiqh. Again, bear in mind this is the fiqh of the Sada Shafi'iyya, radiallahu ta'ala anhum. So what are the conditions of tayammum? There is 5 conditions according to Imam Muhammad, Ibn Idris al-Shafi al-Muttalibi. So according to him, there's 5 things, there's 5 conditions of making tayammum. First, existence of an excuse that gives you permission not to engage in wudu. For example, sickness, as we mentioned. For example, when you're traveling and you cannot access water, or the water that you have is sufficient for only you drinking and your companion, or the person who has water wants to sell to you with a price much more higher than the market price, or you have a wound on the place that you engage your wudu, and it's detrimental to your life, then you have an excuse. First, that's the first condition. You have an excuse not to engage in wudu. Second, the time of the prayer, the specific prayer that you want to pray with that tayammum has entered. For example, the prayer of Maghrib did not enter yet, so I cannot make tayammum of Salatul Maghrib now. I still have an hour and a half approximately before the time of Maghrib. So I cannot say, you know what, I look for water, I cannot find it. No, let me take tayammum right now and then wait until the time of Maghrib comes. No. I have to wait until the time of Maghrib comes in, then I engage in tayammum, then I can pray. The third condition is you have to go seek for water. You have to go look for water actually. Right? If you're in the desert, you have to go look for water if there's any oasis or anything like that. Right? If you don't find, then you engage in tayammum. That's your last discourse. The fourth thing is an excuse or, right, incapacity to use water after you seek it. So you seek water and then you found it maybe. And then again, you went back. Your excuse, you're either sick or it's only sufficient for you to drink. And the fifth thing, the existence of pure earth containing that, right? Pure earth containing that, all right? So that is the five conditions according to Imam Muhammad, which is Imam Shafi. And to sum it up all, what is the obligatory, right, actions in tayammum? First is the intention, and then we say the intention of this is istibahat salah, right? Wiping the face, wiping the hands, and including the elbows, just like wudu and the order tartib. We have four faraid of tayammum. Four faraid of tayammum. And what are some of the recommended? The sunnah of tayammum is saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, right? Wiping the right limb before the left and performing them in the action consecutively, meaning that, right? Consecutively. Sometimes you can wipe your face, engage in talk, and then come back and then, right? But it's sunnah for you to engage simultaneously. What are some of the things that then invalidate my tayammum? Just like we mentioned, anything that invalidates your, as we mentioned at the beginning, anything that invalidates your wudu, like anything that passes, that comes out of your private parts, you touching, right? You touching male and a female skin coming into contact, right? Uh, um, Slipping while you're not, your buttock, and then touching your private parts with your palm, all these things, right, will break your wudu, and thus will break your tayammum. And then another thing that will break your tayammum is seeing water before you pray. For example, you see water, you are facing the Qibla, mashallah, and then while you're facing the Qibla, as soon as you face the Qibla, before you say Allah Akbar, you saw water over there. Or a friend of yours from nowhere came and he threw a bottle of water to you. Then at that moment, your tayammum is invalidated. And then, وَإِيَاذُ billah, the third thing is apostasy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. Right? So that are some of the things that the Imam mentions. And with that, we've done major parts, some parts concerning the fiqh of how to make wudu. Now we know how to make wudu, alhamdulillah, walillahi alhamd. Now we know how to do ghusl, walillahi alhamd. And now we know how to do tayammum. Okay? Especially my beloved brothers and sisters in the East, back home, this concept of tayammum is one of the key components to them, right? So for me personally, when I grew up, I was engaging in tayammum for weeks and months because there was no water, right? I was engaging in tayammum for weeks for all the 5 salawat for months and weeks, subhanAllah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make all our affairs easy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse our hearts and our bodies. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us good health. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on our parents. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on our teachers. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to aid and facilitate, assist those people who are standing up for justice. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to answer the call of the oppressed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give victory to the oppressed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to see truth as truth and to see falsehood as falsehood and to betray. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us our shortcomings. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to practice what we have learned. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us beneficial knowledge. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحانك رب العزة أما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Until next Monday, inshallah, stay safe and wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan.